Aloha mai kako. Thank you for joining us on this Aloha Monday here, wherever you are. Let's see, we're on Zoom, we're on Facebook. I believe we're also on Instagram. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kale Hannes, and I work with the Papakilo Database within research at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And we're just going to wait a little bit longer for some people to kind of join us. All right. Let me see. We have about 14 people in, and I'm sure people are going to be coming in and out throughout the evening. I know people are just getting off of work. So perhaps grabbing a small bite to eat before they log on. Maybe just a couple more minutes before we get going, but let me see, where is the chat? Well, today we're going to be taking questions in the chat section or the question and answer section. So if you have any questions about during the presentation, feel free to put it up over there, and I will do my best to get those out to you. This past Friday, on the 16th, we had our first webinar series. It's basically the same presentation, different crowd though. We had that from 12 to 1 p.m. And we talked about not only Papakilo Database, but the many collections that are within the database. We helped some people do some searches as well. So we're going to be just beginning maybe a couple more minutes. We got 15 people on Zoom. We have some people also tuning in on the live stream on Facebook. So wherever you are in the world, whether you're next door to me in Honolulu, or if you're in He'eia or Kauai, Big Island, mainland, wherever you are, I hope you are well. I hope you are I hope you are maikai. I hope you're good. And yes, we will be starting very shortly. Ah, there we go. Hey, aloha ahi ahi, kili'i. Okay. And by the way, if you folks want to, feel free to, send this link to any of your friends or family within your network if you feel like they could benefit from this presentation. Aloha e ku'ulei. Good to see you again. Or nice to see your text again. And just to let you folks know, we are recording this presentation. This, along with last Friday's presentation and future presentations, are all going to be recorded and put up on Papakilo as well as on our Facebook page for people to access at a later date. So even if they're not able to attend right now, you're more than welcome to log on and check out the video later. All right, 6:35, perfect time for us to start. Aloha hiahi kako. My name is Kale Hannes with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Specifically, I'm the digital archive specialist within research at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and I'm here to present on the Papakilo Database. We are celebrating 10 years since our official launch on April 4th of 2011. And to celebrate those 10 years and all the different partnerships that we've been able to create with various community archives, as well as the different records that we've been able to put up, um, we thought that what better way to kind of celebrate that than put together a webinar series and put together all these success stories that we've been running in Kawaiola, our the Office of Hawaiian Affairs monthly newsletter, um, celebrating Papakilo, demonstrating its worth by sharing user success stories, and so on and so forth. If you folks have any questions throughout the course of this presentation, feel free to put it in the chat or in the question and answer section, and I'll do my best to get to those. As I mentioned, this presentation is being recorded for archive purposes and for the purpose of being able to go back and check it out later. So without further ado, let us begin. My name is Kale Hannes, as it says so clearly on the front page. Kamehameha Schools graduate, Hawaiian Studies graduate. I've been with OHA for over about 14 years now. And for the majority of those 14 years, I've been working on this project, the Papakilo Database. So the Office of Hawaiian Affairs has a number of responsibilities that we take very seriously as a part of our being established. Of course, working towards the betterment of Native Hawaiians is one of the key things. And what better way to ensure the betterment of Native Hawaiians by providing educational resources such as the Papakilo Database. One of the things that we do at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs is called compliance review. Basically, whenever there's development done within the state, an EIS, environmental impact statement, or an environmental assessment, cultural impact statements, cultural assessments, those types of paperworks and reports need to be filed. And as a part of the state representing Native Hawaiians, OHA receives those reports, and basically we read it and then we respond back. And if there are any complications or if there's anything that we don't agree with, we try our best to work with the developer to make sure that things are all pono, or things are all maikai for us. So a lot of that has to do with doing research. Now, we have these beautiful reports that are provided to us by the developer in environmental assessments, impact statements, and so on and so forth. But as our staff kind of found out, we needed to do our due diligence and do research outside of what was provided to us by the developers. So we often found ourselves going to the state archives, the state library, the Bishop Museum, Bureau of Conveyance, so on and so forth. And what we wanted to do was not only provide a good way to look up all these environmental assessments at a later date, but we wanted to also really streamline the work of our staff when they reviewed these reports, when they did their own research. The whole idea was to become more efficient and effective in how we responded and how we did our research. So what did we start doing? We said, okay, we're going to create the digital dream. We're going to just say, okay, whatever you want to learn, whatever you think would be helpful, whatever you think would be valuable, let's kind of throw that all together. So based off of what we have, we start off with the environmental and cultural assessments and impact statements. We've also worked on the digitizing historic documents, things like the Mahele records, the newspapers, and all that stuff. Those types of things were really valuable for us. And I'm going to get into those in just a little bit. What else do we want to look at? We also wanted to look at other types of reports, historic maps, potentially statistics. Then we started expanding even more, say, okay, Mo'okua house. We're gonna do genealogies. We're gonna look at mele and oli, or our songs and our chants and our stories, our mo'olelo. Then we decide, okay, what else is valuable out there? Wind names, rain names, place names, historic pictures, audio visual stuff, videos from long time ago, or pictures. And then of course at the time, which was it, what was this, maybe 2007, I think, at the time, says, and let's make it all GIS, the mapping system. And this was like right around when Garmin was coming out, and before you had the maps on your phone and stuff. So at the time, that was pretty cutting edge. We thought, hey, we're gonna have a pretty good database if we can tie it all together. So basically what we did is we started to invest in different organizations, community archives, and the development of this database. So what is Papakilo? Papakilo essentially is a comprehensive database of databases. And a lot of these databases are housed with our partners, such as Bishop Museum, the State Archives, um, who else? University of Hawaii, Hula Preservation Society. We work with the big guys on the government level, and we work with the small guys. Kauai Historic Society. In the future, we're also going to be working with Lahaina Restoration Society and the Maui Museum, and we look forward to working with many other organizations that house these treasured collections that hold these just gems of knowledge that we're not always able to access. So that was the idea behind Papakilo. Papakilo translated into Hawaiian, Papa is foundation, and kilo means to seek out. So this is basically a place, a waihona, a repository in how we go out and seek information. So what do? We went to the drawing board. We did our research. We looked at successful models that are out there in the community. And so after much research, we decided to go with the platform called Greenstone, based out of New Zealand, or Aotearoa. At the time, and to this day, our sister website, or our sister partner, the older brother or older sister, however you want to put it, Ulukau also uses the same platform. So the idea was to invest in this platform so that we could build databases that talk to each other in the future. Then after that, we started importing different types of databases that we had, our own reports, Shipley Index, land records, genealogies, newspapers. And then we went through an extensive period of testing where we really tried to see how, or find out, how do these different types of collections or databases, how do this data play well in the same sandbox, if you know what I mean. We got to get all the technology to talk to each other. And that was a pretty impressive feat. And what do we end up with? Probably, let me see, 3.5 years after I started on the project, we were able to go live. And we launched the Papakilo database on April 4th, 2011. At the time, we were just starting to spread our wings, or test out what our wings could do, actually. So we launched with 13 collections and just over 500,000 records from 7 partnering organizations. And the main collections that people would log on to view, and to this day it's still the same, are the Hawaiian language newspapers, the Mahele records, and the genealogy indexes. So 10 years later, we've expanded from those, 13 collections. We now have 70 collections, over 1.1 million records, and we have partnered with 18 different organizations, with more lining up. And it's been a wild ride. It's been a very humbling experience, and we're going to share some of the numbers. So since that official launch to April 4th of this past year, we've had almost 5.5 million page views, and people are tuning in from all over. You know, they're logging in from Honolulu, Hilo, Maui, California, Oregon, even the East Coast. We have people tuning in from logging in from Switzerland, from Japan, from Aotearoa. Anybody who has interest in Ike Hawaii or the knowledge of Hawaii, they've been tuning into this, and it's been a really wild ride. And to this day, as I mentioned earlier, the main reason why people log on for this is they're doing genealogy searches, they're looking into the Hawaiian language newspapers, and they're also accessing the Mahele records. So just a little bit about the database. I'm gonna walk you through some of the different pages, show you how to search within the database. Um, and at any time, if you do have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can put it in our question and answer. I'm also trying to monitor at the same time the Facebook feed. So if you have any questions, you can try and put it there. I see there's a whole bunch of comments, mostly people tagging other people to tune in. And if I don't get to your questions, I'm sorry, but if you go to papakilodatabase.com, you'll be able to see that on the main page, there's an email at the bottom where you can send your questions. You can potentially request for future trainings and so on and so forth. Now, getting to the home page, let's start to walk through the database. Recently, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, some person, this guy, had the great idea that, okay, we're celebrating 10 years, let's give ourselves a little bit of a facelift. So with that, if for those of you who may have accessed the database in the past, you notice that the banner is different. It's a little bit darker. It's a little bit more mature than the light baby blue that we had earlier. And we've had to do that on all the pages. You'll also see that going based off of the main reasons why people use this database or conduct searches, they're doing searches for location, they're doing searches for genealogy, Mahele records, and the Hawaiian language newspapers. All right. The next slide that I'd like to share shows how we can search by location. This also is an upgrade that we implemented towards the later half of last year. We were able to kind of incorporate a map, and although you can't do it, I can't show you right now. During the demonstration, I'll be able to show you how you can zoom in, you can select your island, you can select your moku, your ahupua'a, and you can run a search right there. The reason why we did that is because sometimes, you know, we may know the island, but we may not know exactly the ahupua'a. We may not know exactly the moku even. So this is just a little bit of a visual way for people who operate visually to be able to interact with the database. Recently, we have also revamped our search by collection page. For those of you who may have gone on in the past, you'll notice that we made use of this big space right in the middle, and we've listed out all the different collections that we have. In addition to these kind of surface or these umbrella topics or collections like Bishop Museum collection, if you were to click on that, it'll drop down and list all the different sub collections that are also housed within Papakilo. And we'll do that in a demonstration in just a little bit. Now, one of the most highly accessed collections is the Mahele Aina Index. These Mahele records detail the privatization of land, or from the Mahele, in the 1840s to the 1850s. This was the opportunity for Native Hawaiians to claim land that they have lived on, and it also served as a way that the chiefs at the time could kind of parcel up the land and divvy it out. That resulted in about 70,000 records, and people are accessing this for the Land Commission Awards or the Mahele Awards themselves, Royal Patents, Native and Foreign Testimony, and Native and Foreign Register. Some examples of how people use this is when they're doing land title research, or even when they're trying to apply for the Kuleana tax exemption. You know, people are logging on for that because you need you need documentation that proves that your direct lineal descendant was the original land claimant in order to qualify for Kuleana tax exemption. Here's an example of the Mahele records, the actual record themselves that has the name. I know it's kind of hard to see perhaps on whatever device you're viewing on, but if you click on one of those documents or one of those pictures, on the right-hand side, you'll be able to see what the document actually looks like. All right, genealogy. Now, genealogy can be kind of tricky, you know, because it can be composed of many different things, and people are always looking for first source material. You know, that includes birth or death, marriage certificates, but there's other ways to prove that, you know, through census. In addition to that, for example, Bishop Museum has a wonderful collection that we are hosting, or we are housed into. That's the whaling ship records. They also have the Sullivan collection. So what we've done is, if you press on that homepage, if you press search genealogy, it'll automatically pull from collections that we identified as having genealogy records. So that includes Bishop Museum, 3 of their collections, the State Archives, 2 of their collections, Hawaiian Mission Houses, 6 of their collections, and of course the Ulukau genealogy indexes. We work very closely with all of these. Ulukau, if we're tied directly into, so if you do a search within Papakilo, you'll be able to access results on Ulukau as well. And that was one of the original intentions of when we started building this database, to create that communication between these platforms. Over here, we have a custom search, and I know the image is a little bit on the smaller side, for which I apologize, but as you can see, let me see, what is there? I did a search for one of my family names and I pulled back. Well, basically it's a lot of there's a lot of results. I believe that's like 11,000 results. No, 15,000 results. So none of us has time to go through 15,000 results. So what we've done is, in the picture, if you'll notice, there are tabs, and the tabs represent getting access to sub-collections. And if you click on something like Bishop Museum, you'll be able to see tabs of those sub-collections. So the idea is just to make it a lot easier to be able to navigate, to be able to bounce around and find exactly what you're looking for. Probably one of the crown jewels of our collection, or of Papakilo, are the Hawaiian language newspapers. And through our partnership with both Bishop Museum and Oʻaʻiʻulu, which is headed up by Dr. Puakea Nogomeyer and Kauʻisai Dudois, we've been able to accumulate a large number of digitized Hawaiian language newspapers. Basically, these newspapers are published from 1834 to about 1948. There are gaps here and there. And in fact, there is a new effort that we are embarking on with the Bishop Museum and with Oʻaʻiʻulu to help digitize or redigitize some of these images. The images that are on there we're taking from microfilm. So sometimes the quality is good and sometimes the quality is not so good. And the reason why that's important is because when you're doing research, we use a thing called optical character recognition, or OCR. And basically what that does, it takes that image and it scans the image and tries to identify all the words. So what we came up with, was some very good results, but at the same time, some less than desirable results due to the quality of the image. And if you think about an image, even if there's text on there, even if there's like an ink stain or somebody spilled the coffee or whatever, you know, that's going to distort the optical character recognition, the OCR, which puts us at a disadvantage when we're trying to do research and trying to connect and trying to find all of these different nuggets of information that we can use. Currently, we have over 50 newspapers totaling almost 70,000 pages, almost almost 412,000 articles. And we currently have kind of a crowdsourcing effort going on. If you're interested in signing up for that, please message me or email me afterwards and let me know. But basically what people are able to do is they're able to go into the database. And if you're looking at the text, you're able to correct it in real time. So I'll do a demonstration of that in just a little bit. But currently we have 226,000 lines corrected. And the translation side is a little bit slower because, you know, that's not something that we can outwardly put to a crowdsourcing effort. We're a little bit more careful in what types of translations we provide. Here are the results for a search within the newspapers. And I just put in the word Waimea. So I came up with 252 results for Waimea. One of my favorite articles that comes up is, of course, a picture celebrating Ikua Purdy, William Spencer, and Archie Ka'o'a when they represented Waimea and they went up to Wyoming for the rodeo championships, the World Rodeo Championships. On the left-hand side of this, that left-hand image, you'll see what I mean about the quality of the image. Now, this is a good image. If you're able to kind of zoom in, you'll be able to see that the text is pretty much intact. And this is ideal for us when we're scanning it. Now, all this information that we've been able to accumulate, all these different collections, all these different databases that we've either received licenses to disseminate out, or we've been able to partner with these wonderful organizations, has to do with networking. And the Office of Hawaiian Affairs basically really is invested in supporting our community archive family. So that includes working with everybody, basically. We work with the Bishop Museum. We've had the privilege of working with Awaiaulu and David Forbes. DL Consulting, based in New Zealand, are the engineers of this database. They do the heavy lifting behind the scenes and build the code. When I ask for something, I say, why can't it do this? And they just look at me like I'm crazy, but then they eventually end up doing it. So we work with a number of different partners, all leading up to a wonderful resource that is available for the public to access for free from home, from work, from your phone, from your car, wherever it's safe, except if you're driving. Don't drive and access Papakilo. As I mentioned, we work with the state archives, mission houses, Hula Preservation Society, Kauai Historical Society, the law school, and the list kind of goes on and on. Very fortunate to be in the position that we are in and make all these great connections, and not only provide this information to the general public, but also help our community partners, community archive partners, expand the scope of better serving their beneficiaries, their constituents, their community, as well as helping them to build the capacity to better preserve and manage these documents, these historic documents. So at this time, I'm going to take a short pause. We're about half an hour in. Are there any questions for anybody? No, I'm doing that great of a job, I guess, right? All right, I'm just going to take maybe a little, okay. The chat is open. There are no questions on Zoom. I'm trying to look at the Facebook page. Once again, if you're just joining us or you joined us a little bit late, my name is Kalehanis, and I'm a digital archive specialist with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. This is a presentation on the Papakilo Database. Um, a wonderful resource for Native Hawaiians and any researcher that is interested in Hawaii or historic documents you can access. Nope. Okay, we're gonna move right along. If you do have any questions, like I said, feel free to put it in the chat or put it in the question and answer, or if I don't get to it, because I can't, having a hard time viewing the comments on Facebook, hopefully I'll be able to come back to that and answer all your questions. If you think of something afterwards, feel free to visit the site, papakilodatabase.com, and then you'll see on the bottom that there is a little link that shows an email, and you can just email me there, and I'll be more than happy to try and help you out with whatever questions you have. Okay. A lot of people, I will say this database is a little bit daunting, and I see a comment that it can be difficult to go into the archives or go into the Bishop Museum, and sometimes you don't know where to start. So here are I'm going to share a few tricks and tips that will help you, at least in your online research, to better slim down your search results so that you're kind of like looking exactly for what you want. And here's an example of using quotations when you're doing a search for a certain word or a phrase. And the example that I use here is la ku'oko'a. And I'll show you in a little bit about how the difference between if I were to just put la ku'oko'a no quotations versus la ku'oko'a with quotations. I believe that if you don't put the quotations in, it's going to pull results from using the word la and ku'oko'a, but sometimes they could be in different parts of the text, or they can be opposite, or so on and so forth. But putting quotations really helps to say, this is the exact way that I want my my results to show this word. So use quotations when you're using a phrase, searching up a phrase or multiple words. Another example of how to streamline your results are using the advanced search. We have the advanced search for the Papakilo side, and we also have the advanced search for the newspaper side. Within those realms, you're able to really kind of say, okay, for the newspapers, if I wanted to do a search, like I have the search results here, la ku'oko'a, 1,190 results with the quotations. That's still a lot. So what if I wanted to say, okay, if you'll see on the left-hand side of this screenshot, you can select by publication. You can select place of publication. Up above, you can limit your search results to dates if you want, or you can limit to decades, and so on and so forth. There's many ways that I encourage people to use that will be able to help streamline your results. Okay. One of the basic things that will help you use Papakilo is creating a login. Now, we have created this resource for people from Hawaii, Native Hawaiians, the general public. You don't have to be Hawaiian in order to access this database. You don't have to be Hawaiian to have taken interest in Hawaiian history. All you have to do is have that passion, and that's one of the things that we want to really reinforce with our lahui, with the general public, is access to information. I think that's one of the primary things that we can better our people. So by creating a login so there's two sides to Papakilo. There's the database side, and then there's the newspaper side. And we've made it look like it's kind of seamless, but in actuality, it's two different platforms or two different softwares, if you will, it just working together. If you create a login with the database side, which is the image on the left, what's on my left, You'll be able to see your past searches. You'll be able to see your past search results. You'll be able to save favorites for different records that you come across. It's really a nifty or a handy tool. And I know the last thing we want to do is create another username and another password. I get it. I have problems remembering my own passwords. But for those of you who are doing extensive research, this is a really great tool for you to use. On the right-hand side, this lighter login screen, that's the login for the Hawaiian language newspapers. And over there, same thing. You can view your past searches. You can save articles. You can save newspapers that you may not have the time to read at that time. Say, okay, I'm going to come back to this. So you utilize those logins. It'll help your searching methodologies go a lot more smoothly. The last little tip that I would like to share is when you're searching by collections, and I agree, this can be a little bit daunting. It can be intimidating because there's so much and you don't know where to start. But I said earlier, if you click on something like Bishop Museum, it'll drop down and you can see all the sub collections within there. And looking at this, I may not know what is that, the Kekahuna collection is, or the Stokes collection, or the Sullivan collection. So that's why we put those little icons with the eye. And yes, it may seem intuitive, but sometimes people need to just be led there and say, okay, you don't know what it is? Click on this little icon and it'll provide a brief description about what the collection is. You know, we've really worked hard to develop this resource for the community to use for our lahui. And its effects over the past 10 years have been really something remarkable, where we can't always put into numbers. You know, we can count the number of people that access the website. We can see, okay, how many times people access the newspapers or the Mahele records. But a lot of the success stories are hidden within the community, only for our users to enjoy. One of our consultants and kumu of mine, Dr. Papakilo Database, put together this really nice saying where the Papakilo Database has created a storehouse and delivery system that is serving both the amateur and adept. Other sites are out there, but OHA has created a flagship that serves its fleets well. And we really want to send our mahalo out to Dr. Papakilo Database and the members of OHAʻiʻs for their support, especially within the Native Hawaiian language newspapers. All right. A good friend of mine from the island of Maui, kumuhula and musician extraordinaire, Koripua Pata, he uses the Papakilo Database for a lot of research. He wrote this wonderful article that we published in the March Kawaiʻola, the OHA monthly newsletter. But I just took a little excerpt to say that, you know, this database or Papakilo Database has been, without exaggeration, truly invaluable. He thanks OHA, and in the article that he shared, he was able to say how he was able to apply the methodologies of and being able to access Mahele records within the database and make that as his research. Okay, I have a message. Okay, so Ken, that's a good question about, do we search without Okina and Kahako, or do we include them? So what we've been able to do within the database is create an algorithm that accounts for people who use the Hawaiian language diacriticals and those who don't. So it's a little bit different when we're dealing with the newspapers, because the newspapers didn't always use them. But within historic documents, there's a lot of inconsistencies on when it was used. If it was like government documents, they used it sometimes. If it's personal memoirs or letters, the the use of the Hawaiian language diacriticals was very, sometimes they use it, sometimes you don't. It's kind of like that saying, if you know, you know, if you don't know, well, you don't know, or maybe you can get a hint of what it's saying. So I hope that answers your question on that, Ken. Here is a short video put together by the members of Owaeulu. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because these are people from our community, both people that we look up to or people that are just everyday people. This particular video focuses on the next generation of Hawaiian scholars that are really being taught how to access Ike Hawaii. I'll just go ahead and play the video and you folks can enjoy a break from my voice. All right.
And create that sense of belonging and love for culture that we all want our students to go away with.
Kalamai for that.
Papakilo serves as a great source to foster that kind of learning that we're striving to provide for our students.
I think one of the greatest things about Papakilo is that in today's generation, we are vastly lacking in the kupuna that we had just one generation ago, and in the depth of knowledge. And so, with the resurgence of Hawaiian language and interest in Hawaiian language and Hawaiian things, Hawaiian knowledge, I think Papakilo offers a chance at having a kupuna again. It's access to a kupuna for all of the people that don't have those kupuna or who missed their chance at the access to those Hawaiian speaking kupuna and those kupuna that had so much Hawaiian knowledge. So much research that eventually becomes books or movies or films or documentaries or art or mele or music. A lot of those projects, a lot of that creativity starts at Papakilo. I think it's inspired by Papakilo. I think Papakilo is where creativity and research and Ike and knowledge and projects to bring that Ike and knowledge forward, they start at Papakilo.
And as a student of Hawaiian culture, Hawaiian history, Hawaiian language, now a teacher of Hawaiian language and a translator at Owaeulu, Papakilo has become an integral part of my daily life. And the access that Papakilo provides to all of these various databases is unparalleled and extremely valuable for potential research and scholarship.
It has really been a valuable tool in helping us debunk norms. You know, we would assume that, oh, this is an improper way of spelling or saying this one word. But with a simple search on Papakilo, within a matter of seconds, you can have thousands of examples of that one word.
The searchability function in the newspapers is huge that wasn't available to us before. And so I highly support and encourage the continued financial support for Papakilo for it to expand its resources.
Today, as an educator of Hawaiian language for students at the high school level, the students are beneficiaries of the knowledge not only that I have gained, but it also serves as a primary resource for their learning, research, and study of Hawaiian language.
All right. Once again, let me turn back on the video. Once again, I want to say mahalo to Owaeulu for putting that video together. And like I said, the idea I had behind wanting to show you folks that is these are real people within our community. These can be our neighbors, these can be our families, who are able to utilize the database, able to do research, able to access historic documents. So it can be applied to you folks as well. At this time, I'm going to kind of pause once again. And by the way, I apologize for that little audio thing. I'm still kind of getting used to doing this on Zoom and cross-posting to Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. But if you do have any questions, I'd be more than happy to take those questions now. None? Well, I hope it's because I'm doing an excellent job in this presentation. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch gears very, first of all, mahalo for tuning in so far. Once again, my name is Kale Hannes with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. What we're going to do now, we have about 15 minutes left. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of do a little walkthrough of the database itself. If you folks have any specific questions, feel free to put it in the chat on Facebook or the chat on Zoom. Those are the only ones that I can kind of see right now. If you folks would like me to try do a certain search, I'd be more than happy to try and do that for you folks. But let me just switch gears really quickly. And let me see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the window so that we can look at the database itself. And voila. So let me just kind of hide some of these other things. Okay, we'll put this away. Okay. Let me just expand this out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's take this for a little test drive. There's a question that came in about what is the best way to translate the Hawaiian newspapers. And you know what, that's a very good question that we're still wrestling with. We've been trying to create partnerships with University of Hawaii to try and build it in with their curriculum so that they can potentially contribute translations to what's currently online. I would say the best way to do that is just, you know, if you want to find out some information, well, actually, the best way to do it is just email me, and then we can kind of walk through and then see where we get a speed bump or so. And then if we can't do it at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, we'll try and point you in the right direction. Another question. Are there currently past statistics of Hawaiians, such as numbers in Hawaii, etc.? Stats that Papa Ola Lokahi may have. So that particular question, I'm not as, I don't know as much when it comes to statistics. We do have a Native Hawaiian data book. And if you look up nativehawaiiandatabook.com, that's another online resource of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And what it does is it culls various census records as well as data within the community and makes that available and searchable online. Yes, Hiapo is amazing. There's so many, with the creation of Punana Leo and the integration of Hawaiian language within schools and even the re-identification and the renaissance of Hawaiian language and Hawaiian identity from the 1970s, even to more recently with people wanting to reconnect with their mo'okua, their genealogies, or even do land title research. There's been so many people kind of logging on and trying to learn about things Hawaii. I want to thank everybody who is chiming in on the different chats that we have going on. Is there a place that can translate our documents? So there are, I think, certain services out there that might be available that's something that we can kind of talk about at another time, or if you have questions, you can email me about, and I'll try and put you in the right direction. But in the meantime, we have about 10 minutes left. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick spin in the database. You'll see on the right-hand side, or this latest news site, I'm not sure what side it is for you. This is where we have a running log of everything that we've been doing in Papakilo. So at the top, you're going to see this top entry advertising the webinar and so on and so forth. On April 4th, we put something up there that celebrates the 10-year anniversary by announcing our webinar series. So this month, the month of April, this presentation or this webinar is just the general intro and training. Next month in May, we're going to be featuring Kipuka, the Kipuka database or the collection. And that is OHA's GIS database, which operates separately. However, Papakilo and Kipuka, they're pretty much pili together. They're entwined. They're connected. So results that you put in a search query within the Papakilo database, you'll get search results from Kipuka as well. We're also going to be featuring presentations by Ulu Ulu, or the Digital Moving Archive, out at West Oahu, as well as Awaiʻulu, who will present in July on the Hawaiian language newspapers, as well as in August, they're going to be presenting on the Ali'i letter collection and Hawaiian national bibliographies. Papakilo will present, or I will probably present in September, speaking specifically to genealogy research. We're going to explore some collections that are out there, as not only within Papakilo, but some resources that might be available elsewhere on the web. In October, we have a presentation by the Hula Preservation Society. They have such a wealth of information from these kumuhula that have gone in the past, but at the same time are still alive as well. So big mahalo for them for stepping up. And we have November, December, and January yet to be scheduled, but it's looking like we're going to have a pretty full year of presentations. If throughout the course of not only this presentation, but say you go someplace else afterwards and you're thinking about it, saying, oh, I would like to, if you have a thought for a topic that you would like to see us present on, or perhaps a different style of research like genealogy research or land title research, feel free to message those ideas to us, because as much as we work with the database, we work out with all these collections, sometimes we get horse blinders on. So we would really love the input from our community to help dictate us in what you folks want to hear about. Okay, so let's do a search. Well, first thing we're going to do is search by collection. I clicked on there, and let's expand it just a little bit so it's okay. All right. There we go. This is how I wanted to see. Search by collection has all our different partners and all our different collections up here. So earlier I was using Bishop Museum collections as a reference. So if I click on there, you'll see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 collections that we have from them. So if you're doing and if you're wondering what is ethnobotany, Index of Native Hawaiian Plants, what are the Hawaiian ethnological notes? Here's a brief description of that. It's a wealth of information. A lot of people kind of type in a search and then they'll either come here or they'll start off on that main page. But these are examples of, and if you are on a desktop computer or are able to split screen on your tablet, it's going to be small images, but feel free to follow along or peruse through the database at your own leisure. Here are some other collections. document collection from the Washington Place, certain excerpts from the English newspapers and Hawaiian language newspapers. Here's another great one that we were kind of able to partner with just maybe 2 years ago. I think we brought these online. The collections from the mission houses. So the mission houses definitely hold a wealth of information, not only pertaining to Native Hawaiians, but just people of Hawaii. And you'll find that in their newspapers like The Friend over here, or the Polynesian, but you'll also find documents, correspondences, journals from the Wilcox family, or missionary journals, letters, and so on and so forth. You'll find documents, digitized versions of Ali'i letters. So missionaries often wrote to Ali'i, and they wrote back. So you'll be able to see some examples of that. Let me see. Unfortunately, if I were to put it in one way, the database is like an umeke. It's like a calabash or a bowl. We have what we have, and we're constantly trying to add to that. Currently, we don't. And people are talking about Chinese records, so we don't have that. However, we do have a partnership with Ancestry.com, and prior to COVID, we have a service-oriented office at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs called Hale Noelo. That's Hale, Hale, Noelo, Noelo, Noelo. Yeah, Hale Noelo. And if you look that up, basically what that is, that's our what is it? It's kind of like our technological service side. And what we provide over there is access to online resources such as Ancestry.com, access to Papakilo. You can come in and we'll show you how to use both databases, how to search. We offer genealogy technical assistance, where we help you to learn how to identify primary sources, how to identify and research primary documents. We also have a digitization area where if you come in, make an appointment and come in, we'll set you up on a machine and we'll teach you how to use the machine. And so you can kind of come in and digitize your own records. But in regards to, I guess, records outside of Hawaii, we're primarily focused on, Papakilo primarily focuses on records that has to do with Hawaii or people from Hawaii. Let me see. Any other questions? Feel free to put it up in the chat on Facebook or Zoom, and I'll do my best to get out there. We're quickly running out of time. If you folks want, I'll go on longer than the 7:30 end date, if that works for you. Let me see. Search by location. I wanted to show you a quick example of this and how it works. Okay, so it's an interactive map, and as an example, what we'll do is kind of zoom into the island of Oahu. By selecting Oahu, it kind of fills in this drop-down menu on the left-hand side and puts it right up here on the right for you to view. And if the search that I like to use is Waimea, and if you do a search in Papakilo, let me just show you this. Let me take it away real fast. If you were to just do a search for Waimea on the main page, right, you're going to get 17,536 results. And one of the reasons why I encourage people to use as many search terms as possible is because, you know, there's at least 3 Waimea that I know of, one on Kauai, one on Oahu, and one on Hawaii Island. So somebody just asked about tips and shortcuts, and so this is one of them. If I wanted to say, okay, Waimea Oahu, then I'll just type in Oahu. Was that 17,000? Now down to about 7,000. And that's why using this search by location is also very important. If we go back to the home page to continue on that question about tips and shortcuts, right over here underneath where you can put search terms are where we have kind of a short list where you can cycle through. You can see some of the different search terms, I'm sorry, search tips that you can use as you do your research. So very helpful. And of course, the catch-all. If you have any questions or need any more information regarding Papakilo, just feel free to email me at any time. Okay. So let me see what we did. Okay, so let's try and line up that same search, Waimea over here with Waimea over here. Now, Waimea on the island of Oahu is, let me see, it's not in Waialua because, yeah, I believe it's in Ko'olauloa. Okay, and yep, there it is. So on the left-hand side, you see these drop boxes kind of automatically populating themselves based off of what we clicked. And then what we're going to do is just run a search. And there we go. We have all these results. And the reason why it's not the almost 7,000 is because we're using 3 search terms: Oahu, Ko'olauloa, and Waimea. So these are little tips in how you can kind of really streamline your results and get it down to something that's a lot more manageable. Let's see. Okay. One of the things that I do want to showcase that I don't think I've really been able to talk about is the Hawaiian language newspapers. And the reason why this is important is because these are like the Hansel and Gretel cookie crumbs that are left behind. Talking about all different types of Ike Hawaii. These newspapers spanning from 1834 to 1948 cover a wide variety of things. And one of the beautiful things that people may not know about is that these articles and who wrote these articles, that's where a lot of the depth lies, because, or the value. A lot of these articles were not written by, as we know, staff employees. Yes, there was an editor. Several newspapers employed keiki, or children, to help put the what are those called? Those little the letter blocks, so that when they run the ink and then they press the paper, you know, the keikis with their little fingers, they're able to really do that. But these newspapers were basically their content was provided by the general public. People were able to write in and share these beautiful stories about life and what it was like back then. So because of that, you get a number of things. You get really runs the gambit, in that you get stories, these beautiful mo'okuahaus, these beautiful genealogies celebrating the life of a loved one that has passed. So you can see their genealogy and where their family is from, and so on and so forth. Then you also get the publication of like mele or kanikau or oli that is kept there, kind of just waiting for us to rediscover. You even get stories about how, so I remember that there was one story about how this one guy got fined $24 for buying alcohol for a native Hawaiian. So There's also a story about how this one guy couldn't sleep because the neighbor's dog was going off all night. So it really runs the gambit. And if you think about it, this type of idea of crowdsourcing, this idea of the community really writing in and posting it up for someplace to see, that does that remind you folks of anything? Perhaps Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Native Hawaiians, actually not even just Native Hawaiians, just people of Hawaii were doing this way before we even knew what social media was, before we knew what a tweet was, what we knew before using the gram or Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So people of Hawaii, we're one of the most literate group of people in the world. In the 1840s, in the 1800s, period. So earlier I mentioned to change gears a little bit. Earlier I mentioned there is a crowdsourcing effort to address the quality of the OCR, or optical character recognition. And as it was asked earlier, you'll see that there aren't too many diacriticals in the Hawaiian language newspaper. Not only that, I would say that this is a pretty good quality image, and the image looks pretty clean. We can read it pretty well. However, when it ran through the computer, you'll see on this left-hand side, it was just what I like to call less than desirable, the results. So what we're able to do is, if you create an account, and I'm going to just quickly log in, okay? Oh, sorry, wrong one. And then this is, okay. I think we were looking at this one, right? So logging in. There we go. Okay, you'll see on this left-hand side that this is not what it says. So because I've logged in and because I have text correcting privileges, I have this little thing right here where it says correct this text. Also, yeah, I'll just show this example right now. So it takes me to the first line. That looks good. Save and next. And then this is where sometimes I take a break from looking at all different types of data, and I just come in here and I correct text. Can actually be kind of therapeutic in some ways. Here's a good example. Let me just expand this a little bit. Good example of where, this image right here, po'aha, we can read that as po'aha, but the computer for some reason did not read that correctly. So we just go in and just correct it to reflect exactly what it says. And let me just move this in so we can better see this. But you folks get the idea. There's a lot of text that needs to be corrected. November 27th, ma, kahora, kahora, 10:30. And I'm not going to go through and change the whole text right now, but for those of you, and there's this question that just came in, what is required to be approved for text editing privileges? So what we are able to do is we're able to give you folks, there's actually 2 levels of privileges. So there is a text corrector, which anybody can be, and then there's a reviewer, or a kind of a person that signs off on it. So people can go in and they can sign up, they can create a login, and I'll grant them text correcting privileges. And then if they were to make a sorry, I'm getting questions coming in. So, and if they were to log in and make corrections, that's one step. After that, it goes to me or somebody who has these final say. And basically, what I'll do is I'll go through and try and make sure that everything that they put in is correct. And after that's been signed off by myself or somebody else with my level of reviewership, then we will lock the article and not make it available for future editing. Now, if I'm human, so is the person that corrected it. If there are errors in that locked transcription or that revised text, of course, we'll go back in and unlock it and make the changes to fix that. But the reason why this is so important is, say if you have a name, like, or you're looking up a word, and say you're looking up ho'omana'o, where it is, where I have it highlighted right here. And the computer or the computer generated OCR text reads it as like ho'omana'u with a U instead, or like two O's. I mean, that's just that little thing is a difference between potentially reuniting with your kupuna or finding exactly what you want or missing it completely. So that's one of the reasons why this is so important, to be able to go in, make these corrections, and really expand the value of the database. And I'm starting to get distracted over here so I'm going to save and exit for now. Okay. Save and exit. Okay. Can we share about future collections we're working on or coordinating at this time? Sure. Kiki, good to hear from you. So the question is, and I'm going to answer live. Okay. So the question was, what are some future collections that we're working on? And in all transparency, like at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, I'm the only one that works on this project. I do work directly with our contractor based in New Zealand who builds the platforms, who installs the capabilities or functionalities that that I request. And all these requests to build out functionalities usually goes before like a review board, and we go out and seek public information about what they would like to see. So throughout the years of working with all these different partners and kind of going through and getting all these collections, there is a bottleneck, I will say. And if I were to pull up the main page, we've really been able to, right here on the right hand side, if you look at all these entries of the different partners and the collections as they've announcements of when these collections have come online, that's where we can really see the value of, and sometimes how long it takes to get things on. So there are various collections that I am working on getting access to, and those are housed at, like, Iolani Palace is one of our future partners. Lahaina Restoration Society. Lahaina Restoration Society. Let me just make sure I get those guys correctly. Yeah, Lahaina Restoration Foundation. I'm sorry. Lahaina Restoration Foundation. We're also working in talks with Maui Museum. We've talked with Kauai Historical. Basically, anybody who wants to listen and potentially work with OHA and the Papakilo Database, we'd be more than welcome to entertain a conversation. And in fact, prior to COVID, we had to cancel 2 trips. We were scheduled, prior to COVID, we were scheduled to go on 2 trips. And one of them was to London to form partnerships and build relations with the museums over there, and they have a wealth of information pertaining to Hawaii. And the other one that we had to kind of delay is a trip down to Aotearoa. Our brothers and sisters down there, we've also had to delay that due to COVID. But that's just, I'm just sharing that to give you a perspective of the breadth of how much Hawaii is really around the world. Okay. I'm going to go back to the newspapers and kind of show you how to use the tools. Okay, so if you're looking at this newspaper and okay, it's kind of hard to see with limited space, and so we've done little things. Trying, if you go over here, you can kind of see what all these little things do. So this top button allows us to just expand the page a little bit more. We can zoom in, zoom out as we so please. If you right click, it'll also bring up a list of things that you can do. So say I want to zoom into this article, there it is. If I want to clip this article, this is what it means to clip the article. Basically, it takes that article out, puts it on a separate page. And you can scroll down. And one of the things that I'm actually kind of proud of is that I mentioned Ulukau was one of our partners, and Ulukau, of course, are the hosts for vehevehe.org, which is the Hawaiian language dictionaries online. So if I'm looking up, if I'm trying to read this, and it's not a direct translation, I understand. However, it does help. So if I'm going through here and I see a word like luakini, okay, so I can open this, type in luakini, and have it translate. Okay, temple, church, cathedral, some sort of place of worship. So that is that word right here. So these little things that we've tried to do to build functionality to make it easier for people to use, we're constantly trying to think of ways as to how we can better the user experience. Okay. There's a question about ship records. Now, we do have some ship records, but they're mostly pertaining to whaling ship, not so much passenger ship. Passenger ship stuff you can probably find on ancestry.com. And earlier I mentioned we have Hale Noelo, which is, if it's not COVID time, we are open, and we do take people in by appointment only. Or if you want access to ancestry.com for free, you can visit your local library, your public library. If you just make a library card, and you'll be able to access ancestry.com for free. Okay. All right, I want to make sure. Okay. Everybody Maikai? Yeah, you guys are still here. I think what are we, about almost 20 minutes after. Okay. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to leave it up to you folks. If you have any questions, I'll probably stay on for a little bit longer, maybe the next 15, 20 minutes. And that's where you can, if you would like to, post your questions or comments in the Zoom or in the question and answer, the chat in the Zoom, or the question and answer in the Zoom, or I'm kind of watching the thread on Facebook as well. But I really hope that you enjoyed this presentation. I hope that it was informative. I believe in the future that we will be sending out a survey so you can rate how awesome a job I did. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ku'ule. Thank you, Kaimi, for all of your kind words. And just to recap, this database is, by no means are we done creating this database. There's so much more left to do, and we're not limiting it to Ike Hawaii. I mean, we want to not just native stuff. We want to expand to missionary stuff. We want to expand to anything that creates that full picture of Hawaii. And that includes historic documents. It also includes presentations and documents that are being created now. So if you folks have any more questions, if you have suggestions about collections, or even questions about how to do research, by all means, please log on to Papakilo Database and take a spin. You're not going to break it. If you do, I'll give you a cookie. Okay, so log on and see what it's like. We're here, Office of Hawaiian Affairs. We're here to answer your questions. We're here to help help you in your search and your research. And big mahalo for everybody for kind of tuning in. I'm going to stay on, and I'll try and address some questions if you have any. But if not, I thank you for tuning in. Please, if you haven't already, please enjoy your dinner and enjoy your evening. Stay tuned. Next month, we will be presenting on the Kipuka database, which is the Office of Hawaiian Affairs GIS database. It's going to be a great presentation by OHA's very own Zach Smith, our GIS guru. So mahalo, everybody, and have a good evening. Malama pono and aloha. Yes, Lucy, Family Search is also another good tool for doing research, genealogy research. Another website that is really great is Find My Grave. That's another great website. Okay, yeah. So if you're interested in being a text corrector, you can email me at papakilodatabase@gmail.com. It's the same email that we use for the for information. It's found on the homepage. Just scroll down just a little bit. It's right here. Email me there. You can express to me your interests. What I'll do is after that, I'll send an invite to be a text corrector. You'll need to go in and verify that. And then after you verify yourselves as a text corrector, then what I will do is shoot you off of some short instructions as to how we go in and do those text corrections. So mahalo for expressing your interest in being a text corrector. All right. I think things are slowing down. So have we approached the Hawaii State Library, Hawaii Pacific Room to digitize their microfilms? So that was a part of our agreement with Ancestry.com. Office of Hawaiian Affairs had a set of digitized records. The State Library had a set, and State Archives has had a set. And through research, our Ancestry.com was able to kind of come in and identify where the gaps were between the collections. And the partnership we made is that we would hand over our side of the collection, as the library did, as the archives has done, in order to get access to for our beneficiaries and the general public to Ancestry.com. So as a result of that agreement, that's why I was saying people can come into the office and get access to these records. They're still in the process. That agreement was finalized maybe about a year ago. They're still in the process of processing all those different images, all the data. They're making sure that the metadata is all there. You know, it's one thing to have the image, but then you need to make sure that you have the name, potentially the date of birth, or the date of death, the marriage, and the location, and so on and so forth. There's a huge amount of processing that, to be honest, that the Office of Hawaiian Affairs is not equipped to handle, and that's why a large entity like Ancestry.com came in and was able to really. I believe that they're going to be able to put that up within the next 2 years. And once again, you can get access for free by going to your state public library, or making an appointment with us at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. I hope that answers your question. Everybody's good? Okay. Well, at this time I will log off, but thank you once again for joining us tonight on this Aloha Monday. I hope this information was very useful for you, and shed a little bit of light of how the Office of Hawaiian Affairs is really invested in not only the preservation of historic documents and getting that information out to the general public and our lahui, but we are investing in the future through education and the support of Native Hawaiian knowledge. Take care, everybody. Malama pono and aloha.